We're men in tights. We roam around the forest looking for fights.
I could watch most any Mel Brooks movie again and again. I even liked High Anxiety. But Robin Hood Men in Tights holds a special place in my heart. I think it's partly because I've always liked the Robin Hood legends and enjoy seeing different people's interpretations of them. I may still have Howard Pyle's book around here somewhere. Mel Brooks' second attempt at spoofing Robin Hood is one of my favorites. You heard correctly. The movie was his second attempt to spoof Robin Hood. Today, we're taking a look at his first attempt.
Once upon a time when things were rotten, not just food but also caves were rotten.
1975 saw the debut of When Things Were Rotten. It was a half-hour sitcom that starred veteran actors Dick Gautier, Dick Van Patten, and Bernie Koppel. If you've watched everything on this channel, first of all, thank you, may I bear your children, but more important, you'll recognize Stanley Beamish's friend Hal from Mr. Terrific, which we covered in my series The Dumbbell Derby. Dick Gautier had been a semi-regular on Love American Style, a sketch-based comedy that explored the changing face of sexuality in America. He did a stretch as Jaime the Robot on Get Smart and had numerous one-off parts through the 70s. In the 80s, he started doing cartoon voices and basically lived happily ever after. Dick Van Patten had been on television since 1949. He had one of those faces that you never forget, and he was as comfortable in drama as he was in comedy. Mel Brooks would tap him again in his second attempt at spoofing Robin Hood.
Good morrow, Abbott.
Good morrow.
Welcome, Abbott.
Good morrow.
Hello, Abbott.
Good morrow.
Hey, Abbott!
I hate that guy.
Bernie Koppel had been a television fixture for ages. Like both Gautier and Van Patten, he had put in some time on Love American Style, Get Smart, and many other staple shows of the 60s. His truly big break came 2 years after this in 1977 when he became Dr. Adam Bricker, the medical officer on the Love Boat. Misty Rowe was another one who had been on Love American Style. She originally got noticed by playing a ditzy blonde on Hee Haw. Here, she's apparently the same kind of character, but we often get the feeling that she's hiding the brains of the operation in there somewhere. Alongside that cast of established actors, we had three newcomers. When the character Mork from Ork first appeared on Happy Days, Richard Dimitri was chosen to play him. It was his first television acting job. I haven't been able to learn much about what happened, but he didn't last long. When the producers started looking for a replacement, they settled on a relative unknown named Robin Williams. The rest, as they say, is history. Perhaps to make up for it, he gets to play two roles in this show, twin brothers Bertram and Ronaldo. More on them later. This was likewise Henry Pollock's first TV acting job. Although he did a lot of TV work, he was just as comfortable on the stage and even taught for a while. Millennials probably know him best as the voice of Scarecrow in Batman the Animated Series. David Sabin, on the other hand, seems to have been much more comfortable on a live stage than on television. Before this, he had one bit part, and he didn't do that much TV. He had a strong, steady career on the stage and finally retired in 2017. 4 veterans and 3 rookies, plus Mel Brooks at the helm. He was riding high with the success of Young Frankenstein the year before, so he was ready to take on the legend that had it coming. I would say, how did it go, but cancellation after 13 episodes probably answers that question. With Mel Brooks steering the ship and such a good cast, why did that happen? That's one of the many questions we'll explore in today's Single Shot.
I, Bertram of Nottingham, Royal Tax Collector, on behalf of Hubert, Lord High Sheriff of Nottingham, do hereby proclaim there shall be a great public selling of land.
Whose land?
Yours.
Wow!
These are the jokes, folks.
Hold your tongues!
It's time to meet Robin Hood.
Good day, Bertram.
Good day, Robin.
And how goes it, Bert?
Up to this moment, swell.
They don't come out and say it about Bertram, but it's strongly implied. He never tones down the flamboyance or the deliberately delicate lisping voice. Not even when he meets his twin brother Ronaldo, who is one of Robin Hood's men and pretty much the opposite of Bertram.
Ronaldo?
How could I forget such an embarrassing and disgraceful stain upon the family escutcheon? Oh, you got a big mouth, man.
We'll do the split screen thing with him several times over the next 13 weeks. Ronaldo is a big part of Robin Hood's muscle, while Bertram is essentially the sheriff's lapdog. And frankly, for my money, Richard Dimitri did the two characters so well and so differently, after 3 weeks you could swear you're watching two different actors. He was impressive, if badly written.
Well, it looks like a royal tax collector is weighted down with gold. Why don't you lighten Bertie's burden whilst I compose a message for him to take to the Sheriff of Nottingham? Let me see. My dear Frog Face. Is that a good start? How do you like it?
Little John is your basic work mule. You may have already noticed that Friar Tuck is always eating what looks like a turkey leg or something. They'll take the goodies and send Bertram back to the sheriff. I'm gonna let it go by. The sheriff seems to have a bit of a temper.
You're not talking. No. Oh, thank you.
They set that up like it's a regular thing, but he'll only do it maybe 2 more times in the series. One of the many things about this show that doesn't follow any kind of continuity. The first episode follows Robin Hood in the famous archery contest. Here we meet Prince John, played by veteran actor Ron Rifkin. He wasn't in the show that much and isn't in the opening credits.
Yes, we'll capture Robin, and we'll take him to the dungeon, and we'll put him in the rack, and we'll cut off his hair, and we'll make him eat asparagus mush. Yes, I'm so glad I thought of that.
Audiences had much the same reaction to his character. Maid Marian overhears the sheriff's plot and rides to warn Robin.
Who goes there? Friend or foe?
Friend.
What about the horse?
She makes that expression a lot.
Robin.
That's nice.
Want to talk about love, folks? Take a gander at Cupid's finest work.
Alan Adale, the minstrel bard, does that all the time. To him, there is no fourth wall between you and him. You're right there and he can see you. He'll address the audience multiple times in any given episode. Sometimes he gets a little long-winded and Robin has to interrupt him. These are the jokes, folks. That announcement Bertram made at the beginning, every peasant has to come up with an astronomical amount of money or Prince John takes their lands. When Marian tells Robin about the archery contest, he says, of course I'll go and of course I'll get caught. He wants them to throw him in the dungeon.
Wherein lies the royal treasure.
So?
So, they capture me.
Uh-huh.
You rescue me.
Yeah?
We rescue the gold.
Yeah?
Give that rescued gold to the peasants.
Yeah?
And the peasants thereby rescue their land.
Shenanigans follow. Robin is rescued. The gold is given to the peasants so they can pay John's fee with his own money, and Robin Hood gets the girl again. And if you've ever read Howard Pyle's book or anything else about Robin Hood and his exploits, you can put it out of your mind because that's the only actual Robin Hood legend we'll touch in this show. The rest is cut from whole cloth. Example, the second episode. The French ambassador is coming to talk about a treaty between France and Prince John that would make John powerful enough to depose Richard and take the throne for himself. Ostensibly, Robin Hood's goal is to make the ambassador so miserable he's not interested in any treaty. In reality, the whole thing is nothing but a vehicle for Sid Caesar to be a goofball.
Marquis, the Princess Isabel.
Ah, charmed? Very tasty, very tasty. Excusez-moi. Pardon.
In spite of the laugh track, most audiences found all the rapid-fire French babble not funny. We wanted to know, was he actually saying something or just rattling off nonsense syllables? And if he was saying something, what was he saying? Probably a third of his dialogue in the episode consisted of this stuff, and it got the series off to kind of an awkward start.
It's a toss-up.
Isabel is Prince John's wife, by the way.
Allow me to do the honors, my liege. I will have a drumstick, Hubert.
L'Abbé, that's an ox. Oxes don't have drumsticks.
Oh. Make it a wing.
She also makes that expression a lot. The gags had potential. All of it pretty well ruined because Sid Caesar couldn't stop chattering in French. I'm sure somebody thought it was funny, but I haven't encountered that individual yet. Most of the episodes are standard, over-the-top sitcom fare. The sheriff hires imposters to terrorize the people while Robin and company are on vacation. We have stolen treasure, thrills, spills, and intrigue. One of my favorites is called Birthday Blues. It starts with Ronaldo meeting this character.
My sincere apologies. But my, you seem to be in such a chipper mood before we met.
He may look familiar.
Lefty, are you about a 16 and a half, huh? Oh.
You're correct. Same guy, still playing an executioner. He put on a little weight, he switched to a rope because it's easier to carry than that huge axe, and his eye patch migrated to the other eye. Not asking. In this episode, Ronaldo sneaks into the castle to spend his birthday with his twin brother. That's when we finally learn that while Bertram was raised in splendor and luxury, Ronaldo was kidnapped by gypsies and raised with them. Hence, Ronaldo is the hardened outdoorsman who lives on the edges of the law, while Bertram is not exactly in peak fighting condition.
And they can't kill me until I finish my last meal, right?
That's right, brother.
Then I would like to have a big bowl of broth and the fork.
Okay, that was good. We get a two-part episode in which King Richard must set foot on English soil by a certain date or lose his throne, which is a little weird in itself. And we get this.
I certainly missed it up north.
What were you doing in the North Country, Bertram?
I went up there to collect delinquent taxes.
What's their excuse this month?
They blamed it on the plague, huh?
The episode is about being quarantined. Somehow it seems rather appropriate at the moment. While the nobles scoff at the plague, suddenly people start getting sick and collapsing. We'll learn that it's because some of the food was tainted, but they don't know that. Everyone assumes the worst. Meanwhile, Robin and company have been sneaking through the castle and took a wrong turn.
This way.
Short version, they all end up quarantined in that room for 24 hours so they don't spread the plague, just in case that's what's going on here. It's a great setup for some interactive jokes between the merry men and the sheriff and his men.
The prince is fallen, but we shall survive, for we are the strongest. This is a simple matter of mind over matter, and all that matters in this matter is our minds, and if our minds matter, this plague won't matter, no matter what. What's the matter?
And that's what we do with it. Rather than go a little deeper, maybe even look into some characterization, the rest of the episode is a string of disconnected, easy gags like that. In the final episode, the sheriff hires the Black Knight, the deadliest mercenary in the known world, to eliminate Robin Hood. Now, Monty Python and the Holy Grail had come out 6 months before, so when audiences heard the Black Knight, we were expecting some truly gut-bustingly funny scenes. Instead, we get a full 2 minutes of him arriving in England and riding to the castle, where we spend another 2 minutes listening to the sheriff discuss his mission in the blandest way possible. And the payoff? From the first episode to the last, I have to keep saying, these are the jokes, folks. But for this one, I have to tell a story of my own. Actually, my wife's. She was born in northeastern Montana, but when she was a child, her parents moved to Wyoming so her dad could take up farming. They moved to a little town called Emblem. According to the sign, it was population 4. Her family of 5 moved to town, and the sign changed to population 10. You folks in Wyoming, your tax dollars at work.
Make your move.
That's it. That's Robin Hood's encounter with the Black Knight. And the truth is, up until that point, nothing happens in the episode. The merry men and Marian are trying to talk Robin out of this duel because his right arm is injured, and the sheriff is fantasizing about what the Black Knight is going to do to Robin Hood. As we've seen with so many shows, it's all lost potential. Why did the show fail? Because it wasn't very good. Most of the jokes were old, and the ones that were truly funny were few and far between. Just like we saw with It's About Time and some others, there's no continuity. Nothing in this episode affects anybody or anything in the next or subsequent episodes. In the birthday episode, Bertram and Ronaldo finally had a long talk and started to understand each other. Next episode, all that was gone. And ultimately, so was the show. But it was a little hamstrung from the beginning. To start with, let's talk about the name. When Things Were Rotten. What about that title tells me it's a Robin Hood spoof? Plus, it doesn't sound very appealing. It sounds like a documentary about air pollution or something. If he had called the show Robin Hood Men in Tights, it might have had a better chance of getting an initial hearing. That sounds like a spoof. Then you see the name Mel Brooks on it and you think, ooh, I gotta check this out. When Things Were Rotten just doesn't do that for the average viewer. Then let's take the theme song. It's 1.5 minutes long, the length of a short radio song. It has 2 verses, a bridge, then another verse. That puts it at just under a minute, which is already long for a TV theme, but that makes it about the same length as the opening theme from The Adventures of Superman. Then it repeats the bridge in the last verse. Why? Well, it goes on and on and on because the opening credits go on and on and on. We spend too much time on each person. The goal of an opening sequence like that is to introduce the players and the characters and get the story going as quickly as possible. Let me show you how that might have been done by eliminating the repeated part.
Once upon a time when things were rotten, not just food but also caves were rotten. Everybody kicked the peasants. Things were bad and that ain't good. Then came Robin Hood. Ba-ba. Soon a band of merry men he gotten. They wore outfits made of plain green cotton. Helping victims was their business. Boy, oh boy, was business good. Good for Robin Hood. They laughed, they loved, they fought, they drank. They jumped a lot of fences. They robbed the rich, yet to the poor. Except what they kept for expenses. So when other legends are forgotten, we'll remember back when things were rotten. Yay for Robin Hood!
That took me maybe an hour, and I'm a self-taught amateur. Someone who gets paid to do this stuff should have been able to knock that out in a few minutes. In short, we got too fancy with our credits and ultimately made them boring. The rest of the show seemed to follow that same pattern. Thankfully, Mel Brooks learned from all these misfires, and a little under 20 years later, he gave us something truly memorable. I hope you enjoyed this look at proof positive that even Mel Brooks can make a turkey. If you liked it, click the like button. It really does make a difference. If you're not subscribed, you can do so with a click of a mouse button. And if you really enjoy what we're doing here, consider becoming a patron. The link is below. I'm Irving, and I'll see you again in the next Single Shots.
Well, you know what they say. No news is good news.